So have you ever stopped to think about all those sort of invisible gears turning our modern world? The specialized industries, often hidden away, that are quietly but really powerfully driving global growth. These aren't, the big tech names or the brains you see advertised everywhere. They're more foundational markets, shaping everything from, say, the paint on your car to the ink on packaging. Well, today, we're actually pulling back the curtain on one of these, the global ketone resin market. It's a truly fascinating look at how even these highly specialized industrial sectors are seeing really robust growth and some dynamic shifts happening worldwide. Now, maybe you're sitting there wondering, okay, what exactly are ketone resins? That's fair. A lot of people probably haven't heard of them. Let's get that out of the way first. Basically, ketone resins are these versatile synthetic polymers. Think of them as like specialty chemicals. And they bring some incredible properties to a whole range of products. We're talking high-performance coatings, for industrial machinery, car finishes, giving them that durable, glossy look.
They're also really crucial in things like high-speed printing inks, helping them dry fast and stick well, and in various adhesives, too, for their binding strength. It's their characteristics, hardness, gloss, chemical resistance, that kind of stuff, that make them pretty indispensable in modern manufacturing. Right, so the insights and all the data we're diving into today, it comes entirely from a really comprehensive report by Cognitive Market Research. Our mission here is, well, to unpack these numbers, spot the key trends, and maybe most importantly, figure out what this global path means for you, the curious learner, and what it tells us about, how the world economy kicks. Okay, let's kick off with some of those big global numbers to set the scene. So back in 2021, this market was already pretty substantial. It generated sales revenue of nearly $780 million, almost $779.948 million to be exact. But here's where it gets really interesting. It's projected to climb to almost $890 million by 2025, and then really expand quite significantly to a whopping $1.16 billion by 2033. That's a consistent compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of about 3.35% over that whole period.
Yeah, and that consistency is really something, isn't it? That steady growth rate. It's not just a flash in the pan. It points to um, a really resilient fundamental demand and an expanding base of applications for these ketone resins. Globally, you probably don't see ketone resins directly, right? But they're behind the scenes making products better, tougher, looking sharper. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, this kind of steady expansion tells us a lot. It speaks volumes about the underlying industrial activity, modernization, efforts happening all over the world. And like you said, digging into these numbers region by region, that lets us pinpoint where that utility is being really leveraged and maybe start to understand why.
Absolutely. The overall growth is definitely there. But yeah, the where and why. That's where the insights really lie for this deep dive. So let's zoom in. Where's the growth happening fastest? Where's it maybe a bit more subdued? And what can we learn from those differences? We should probably start with the undisputed growth engine for this market.
Right.
If you're looking for where the real action is, it's pretty clear. The Asia-Pacific region, it's leading the pack globally in growth for ketone resins. Their revenues are projected to jump from just under $300 million back in 2021 to an impressive $471.5 million by 2033. And that comes with a leading CAGR of almost 4%. That's 3.955% to be precise. And okay, within Asia-Pacific, some of the growth spots are just, well, remarkable. Look at India. It shows the absolute highest growth rate anywhere in the world, surging from about $39 million in 2021 to nearly $69 million projected for 2033. That's an incredible 4.83% CAGR. And there's China, obviously a huge contributor, growing from around $90 million to almost $147 million. That's a strong 4.14% CAGR. We also see really impressive growth in Southeast Asia that's collectively looking at a 4.5% CAGR.
Singapore is showing robust expansion too, 4.24%. And Taiwan, growing significantly at about 3.65%. It's quite the picture.
It really is. And if we connect that to the bigger picture, Asia Pacific's dominance, these incredibly high KGRs in places like India, China, Southeast Asia, it just underscores the, well, explosive industrialization happening there and the manufacturing expansion across the region. The report actually highlights things like massive infrastructure projects. China's Belt and Road, for example. Think about the amount of high-performance coatings and adhesives needed for all those new roads, bridges, buildings. It's vast.
Yeah, and similarly, you look at India's Make in India initiative or its growing automotive sector. That's directly fueling demand for durable paints, inks, the stuff that uses these resins. So it's not just about existing industries growing. It's often about building new manufacturing capabilities and serving a rapidly expanding consumer base, too, a base that increasingly wants high-quality, long-lasting goods. So this dynamic growth in Asia-Pacific is basically setting the pace for the whole global market.
Well, yeah, that paints a powerful picture of expansion. And it really ties these chemical markets directly to, like you say, national development plans.
Okay, so from that super fast growth, let's maybe shift gears. Let's move to a region that's still a really substantial mature contributor. North America. Now, this market isn't growing quite as explosively as Asia Pacific, maybe, but it's still very robust, very significant. Its market value is set to increase from nearly $198 million in 2021 to over $272 million by 2033. That's a solid 2.68% CAGR overall for the region. And within North America, the U.S. is, well, predictably the dominant player here. It's going from about $158 million to over $214 million by 2033. That's a 2.56% CAGR. Canada also shows healthy growth, though, from $23 million up to over $34 million. That's actually a stronger CAGR, 3.33%. And Mexico looks consistent, too, growing from about $17 million to almost $24 million with a 2.84% CAGR.
Right. And what's fascinating there is, okay, North America's overall CAGR is a bit below the global average, sure, but the sheer size of the market, plus that sustained growth in the US, Canada, Mexico, it signals a really mature yet incredibly resilient market. You see, we're not necessarily seeing brand new industries popping up at the same rate as in Asia. It's more about a consistent kind of embedded demand within established sectors. Think automotive in the US, right? Ketone resins are essential for those paint finishes or the huge printing and packaging industry. It just keeps needing these materials. And Canada's slightly higher KGR. Well, that could suggest maybe some targeted investments, perhaps in specific infrastructure, or maybe a growing specialty chemical sector adopting newer resin types. So the demand story here is less about brand new market creation and more about optimization, upgrades, and just consistent output from these really well-entrenched industries. It provides a sort of foundational stability, you could say, that balances out the high-octane growth we see elsewhere.
That's a really useful distinction, that stability versus the rapid expansion. Makes sense. Now, let's explore Europe. Here, the report shows a more diverse picture, a real mix of strong growth and some more moderate growth across different countries. The overall market for Europe is projected to go from about $155 million in 2021 to over $216 million by 2033. That gives it a KGR of 2.87%. So, yeah, somewhere between North America and the global average. But yeah, looking at the spread within Europe is interesting. Germany really stands out. It's the strongest player in the region. It boasts the highest KGR there, 3.55%, growing from around $31 million to nearly $47 million by 2033. The UK is also growing steadily, 3.21% TAGR. That takes it from about $22 million to over $31 million. Spain shows strong performance too, 3.13% CAGR, going from $14.6 million up to $21 million. But then you contrast that with regions showing much lower growth, like Russia with only a 1.9% CAGR, and Luxembourg about the same, 1.9%. Those are actually among the lowest KGRs globally.
Exactly. And this diverse performance across Europe, from Germany's really robust growth down to those more modest rates in places like Russia and Luxembourg, it paints a clear picture of, well, regional economic differences. And differing industrial priorities, too. Germany's strength isn't really a surprise, is it, given its powerhouse manufacturing sector? Especially in automotive, engineering, high-quality coatings, they demand advanced materials. The report suggests that things like stringent quality standards there and that constant drive for innovation are really pushing demand for advanced materials like these ketone resins. Conversely, in a place like Russia, maybe geopolitical factors or perhaps slower industrial modernization efforts could be tempering that growth. And Luxembourg, while it has a smaller industrial base, so naturally the demand is more constrained, it just highlights how even within one continental market, you get these distinct patterns based on local economic conditions, regulations, and the specific types of industries that dominate.
So it's not just about the overall economy, but the kind of industrial activity and maybe how mature that market is. That really makes sense. Okay, let's shift our focus one more time. Let's look at the emerging regions. These are contributing significantly to the overall global expansion, and they're showing some really strong, often above average growth trends. Take South America, for instance. The market there is set to grow from $53 million in 2021 to over $81 million by 2033. That's a healthy 3.6% CAGR. And Argentina actually leads the region in growth rate with an impressive 4.16% CAGR, growing from under $9 million to almost $14.5 million. Brazil, while it's the largest market in South America, starting at nearly $20 million, it also shows strong growth, around 3.5% CAGR. Okay, moving over to the Middle East. That market is projected to go from about $42 million in 2021 to almost $63.5 million by 2033. That's a 3.5% CAGR overall. But the UAE really stands out there with the strongest growth, a 4.15% CAGR. expanding from roughly $7 million to over $11 million. Turkey is also showing impressive growth, nearly 3.9% CAGR.
Taking it from about $7 million to also almost $11.3 million by 2033. So neck and neck with the UAE in projected size. And finally, let's look at Africa. The market there is set to grow from about $35 million in 2021 to over $53 million by 2033. That's a 3% million overall. South Africa leads this region with a 3.57% CAGR, growing from $15 million to over $24 million projected by 2033.
Yeah, and what's really striking about these emerging regions, I think, is how even though their overall market sizes are smaller compared to, say, North America or Asia Pacific, they often show key GRs that are above the global average. We saw Argentina at 4.16%, the UAE at 4.15%. That's significant. So we connect that to the bigger picture. It strongly suggests burgeoning industrial bases, new applications emerging as these economies diversify and modernize. In the Middle East, for example, countries like the UAE are actively pushing investment in non-oil sectors, right? Building new infrastructure, expanding manufacturing, that naturally drives demand for materials like ketone resins. And similarly, in parts of South America and Africa, things like urbanization, infrastructure development, growing production of consumer goods, they're all creating entirely new pockets of demand. So these regions, maybe not the biggest in absolute dollar terms right now, but they are absolutely vital contributors to the overall global expansion. And they represent significant future potential. It's a really clear sign that industrial growth isn't just stuck in the traditional powerhouses anymore. It's genuinely a global phenomenon.
So pulling it all together then, what does this all mean for you, the learner, sort of watching these specialized markets? It seems pretty clear the ketone resin market is growing steadily worldwide, yeah? But with some truly explosive growth pockets that offer this unique window into global economic trends.
Exactly. This whole global trajectory, it highlights not just the resilience of this specific market, but also the increasing sophistication and the demand for what these resins do. Across incredibly diverse industries, diverse economies, it's not just one region pulling all the weight. It's more like a synchronized, maybe varied in speed, but still synchronized global expansion. We've seen Asia Pacific leading with that rapid industrialization, building new hubs, expanding old ones. Then North America and parts of Europe providing that steady embedded demand within mature, often high quality industries. And then these emerging regions contributing really exciting new pockets of growth, often outpacing the global average as they build their own industrial futures. And the report really emphasizes that common drivers like urbanization, growth in cars and construction, more demand for high-performance packaging and coatings, these are universal, but their intensity really varies region by region. So this deep dive, it really shows us that even in these highly specific industrial markets, global interconnectedness and these nuanced regional dynamics, they play a critical role in shaping where things are headed. It kind of illuminates some of those hidden levers of the global economy, doesn't it? It shows how crucial these specialty chemicals are to how things work, how things look, stuff we encounter every single day. For instance, think about the rise in demand for electric vehicles globally. They often need lighter, more durable coatings that could further shift demand for specific types of ketone resins in the coming years. And similarly, evolving sustainability trends, the search for bio-based alternatives, that might introduce new complexities, new innovations into this market too. Lots to watch.
And there you have it. We've seen how a seemingly niche market like ketone resins actually offers this fantastic window into broader global economic trends. From those booming manufacturing sectors in Asia Pacific to the stable, mature markets in North America and Europe, and that exciting potential in emerging economies. It really makes you think, doesn't it, about how many unseen components are just essential to our daily lives. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the numbers and trends of the ketone resin market. We really hope it's given you a bit of a fresh perspective on some of those hidden forces shaping our world.
Yeah, absolutely. And this exploration, I think, it reveals that growth and innovation often thrive in the details, right? In those often overlooked components that enable the larger industries. So as you go about your day, maybe next time you notice that durable finish on your phone or the bright ink on a package, just consider what other hidden markets like ketone resins might be quietly experiencing their own significant global transformations, impacting the products and industries all around us, often without us even realizing it. There's always another layer to uncover, isn't there?
Great thought to end on. And just a reminder, all the insights and the data we shared in this deep dive were based entirely on the comprehensive analysis from cognitive market research. Until next time, keep digging deeper.